And we're rolling.
Let's go.
Scott Fox.
How are you?
Do it one more time.
How are you?
Oh,
Fuck. He
got
sounds
the
way
voice
better
for
than
it.
we do. Want to switch chairs?
we are. It's pretty easy to humble Jamie and I, and it's pretty easy to put us in our place and realize that we're the dads winging it when we get a true professional who comes into the studio.
I'm blushing from embarrassment right now.
Oh, God. I am so impressed with your studio here. This is fantastic. I mean, when I walked in, I thought, wow, this is incredible. Great job, you guys.
Man.
Thanks so
That
much.
means
man.
a
So
lot.
good.
That means a lot. For viewers at home, you can hear the voice. If you live in, I'll even say Southern Ontario, you've probably heard the voice before. So, Scott Fox, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you, man. We've got a little tradition. We kick it off with a chat GPT. That's the way that Jamie and I can phone it in
Okay.
on doing our research
Smart.
and introductions.
Yeah.
So usually we read it off and we see how ChatGPT did.
Okay.
Sound good?
Let's hear it.
So, Scott Fox, a media powerhouse whose extensive career has left a significant imprint on Canadian broadcasting. With a notable 12-year tenure at Chorus Radio, Scott shaped morning radio with his unique blend of charisma and expertise, co-hosting popular shows on 91.5 The Beat in Kitchener, Energy 95.3 in Hamilton, and 93.1 Fresh Radio in London. Now steering the successful Scott Fox After 9 podcast, he delves daily into top news, politics, and pop culture, continuing to captivate his audience with insightful commentary.
I mean, that's pretty accurate.
Okay.
There was a shorter duration at Chorus Entertainment. I was at Z103.5 for a lot of years before that.
For sure.
So timing a little off there, but generally speaking, that's pretty good.
Shout out
I didn't know
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT knew that much.
It's pretty good, right?
Wow.
It actually, there's one more. It says, and this is, I think, pretty current stuff too, but important to mention. Scott is also known for his roles as the in-game host for the Toronto Rock lacrosse team and commissioner of the Canadian University Field Lacrosse Association. Scott's passion and dynamic presence resonates across various media platforms. So join us as we explore his illustrious career. Ooh.
Wow.
Ooh.
That's quite the intro.
Illustrious.
Illustrious. That's a good word.
Sounds like you give Wikipedia a little bit of a back rub before we chat.
A little bit, right? Like that coaching helps.
So let's go right up to the top of that. So Chorus, and like I mentioned, anybody who lives in this neck of the woods certainly knows that, and we tune in. Like we would have gotten for sure the Hamilton broadcast here, but I
was
the
Z103
for
for
sure.
sure.
Yeah. So what was that like, man?
Okay, so I was with Chorus for about 5 years. I was there from 2019 until December 2024, and I was hosting the Scott and Kat show. That was Kat Callahan. You know her as the voice of TikTok. That's
Right.
Jesse's voice.
Ah,
Yeah.
Okay.
I knew her before she was famous. And we had a real great chemistry. We had a good radio show that a lot of people liked. So it was on live in Kitchener and simulcast in Hamilton on Energy 95.3. And it gave us a real big footprint. In the afternoon, the show was rebroadcast on Fresh 93.1 in Barrie and 103.1 Fresh Radio in London. So we were reaching 4 real big radio markets every day. And we built up a real great audience. I mean, the people that have, whether they started listening back in 2001 on Z103.5 or followed us to 91.5 The Beat and Energy 95.3, they really did stick with us for like over 20 years of morning radio. So I'm very lucky. And now many of them have followed me to the podcast as well,
Oh, that's awesome. That's huge.
which is good. I need them.
How'd that start? How do you get into radio for 20 years?
I was a DJ in high school, and I was DJing. The bar scene was a lot different back then. It was, I used to work at a place called O'Toole's, and I worked at a Tailgate Charlie's and bars like that. You know, the places where if you buy a beer, wings are 10 cents tonight.
Right.
So I was DJing in bars like that. And back then that was the path to radio. If you were good in a club, you might be good on the radio. So I got a shot and did every terrible job there was to do in radio. Like I got coffee for 10 different people, and that was 10 different runs every day. And putting away CDs and carts. They look like 8-tracks. Those are called carts in radio. Having to put those back on the wall and then pull them out for the next show and things like that. And one day I got an opportunity to broadcast live from a charity car wash. So I did that. They said it went fine. So they said, now we're going to try you pre-recording on the weekend. So I did that. It went fine. And they gave me my regular show. And then that was on a station called Power 88.5 at a Newmarket, like back in 97, 98. and Z103 came along. They were Hits 103.5 at the time.
Right.
They were getting ready to make a switch to Z103.5, and they invited me to come on board. So I took on mornings, and my first show was Valentine's Day 2001. And I had 19 years there doing mornings. Wow. It was a real great run. And going to Chorus was great too. It offered a bigger footprint, but obviously my run there was a little short-lived.
Right.
Odds are pretty good that I'm going to have to bring Jamie coffee for 10 years or so before.
Are you just getting started in the business?
Well, he's had me running errands for years. And it's a lot of work, man.
I can imagine
Hopefully
it is.
It pays off. I don't know. Go back even before that. Like, where's home? Where'd you grow up?
So I was born in Cambridge, and I grew up in the Tri-Cities, went to high school in Cambridge, and it wasn't until I got the job in radio in Newmarket that I moved to Oakville. And as a teenager, I was in Campbellville, so just north of here. And I was between Campbellville, Oakville, Milton for about 12, 13 years. And now I've been in Burlington for 4. I've always sort of lived in Halton, except for when I was growing up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's family like growing up? We're shit my dad taught me. Tell us about your dad.
My dad is also working in radio, different company, but he works in radio. He's one of the back office kind of guys. So he's management.
Always been in radio too?
Yeah, he has. So we actually worked together when I was at Z103.5. It was pretty cool to get to work with my dad. He was always in the business and I was in the business, and we had parallel career paths until then. And then we got to work for the same company, which was really cool. Wow. He's a fun guy. You know, at his age, we still are so competitive at golf, and I can bomb my drive way past his. But his is always straight every single time, and it drives me crazy. Are you guys golfers?
That's how they get you. I am for sure.
I am not. I'm a great golf cart driver.
Yeah, Are you a great golf cart driver?
There's a rule for everybody on the golf course, so that's just fine.
It's a talent to be able to flip over a golf cart, not damage it.
Scott, Jamie almost ended my life one day.
Is that right?
Yeah,
it was that bad.
But it was at a classy place. Like, this happened at Glen Abbey, so it's not like I rolled a golf cart at like a slumlord place.
Oh my God, at Glen Abbey. Wow.
Rolled it on the fairway with both of us in it. Okay.
So I'm kind of a smaller guy. Chris is a little bit taller than I am, a little bit more muscle than I do. So I wasn't doing anything wrong. Literally on the fairway. On the fairway, a little bit of dew, and you carve it to slide over to your ball. Well, I overcompensated on the slide and
drifted it?
Didn't judge like the weight shift difference when we turned the corner.
This isn't about me, Jamie. Okay, this is about your shitty driving.
Yeah.
Wow.
So catches an edge and the whole fucking thing goes over.
No
and
kidding.
we were at an Oakville Dads golf tournament there, representing Burlington Dads. So now we've trashed a cart on the fucking fairway.
I mean, that's kind of the reputation between Oakville and Burlington, right? Yeah.
It's that Shelbyville, yeah. So we flip it, and both of us go. Our total yard sale, shit everywhere.
But your foot was saved.
Thank God all of us were wearing Crocs because it was a dad's golf tournament, as you do. And the Croc, my ankle got caught by what, if it was a car, I'd call it a C-pillar of the golf cart. And my Croc,
the roll cage,
snapped off my foot, and that took the impact of it.
Wow.
And both of us just kind of stood up and were like, oh, that just happened.
Holy cow.
I took the steering wheel in the chest.
Yeah,
we got pretty beat up by that one.
I can imagine. Did the staff at Glen Abbey know?
No, because we actually didn't damage the golf cart, believe it or not. Like I
don't know how you did that.
We rolled it back over and then we parked it on a couple stairs.
Yeah, it was a good day. But to answer your question, I golf. I love golfing, and I love golfing with my dad. I've played more with him than anybody else. My stepfather as well too. He's an avid golfer. He's he's retired now, so he spends all year golfing.
Can I ask you a question about that? Do you ever feel any pressure to let him win?
Not a fucking chance.
Really?
Because you don't have a chance to win?
So against my father-in-law, he will beat me by no less than 10 strokes on any day. And he is a high 70s, low 80s golfer consistently. So he's dialed in, but he's golfing 12 months out of the year, right?
It's easy to do when you're that age though, right?
Yeah, and he's still playing a lot of golf and playing a lot of really good golf. My dad, on the other side, those ones are super competitive because it can be him on any given day, it can be me on any given day, and both of us have a slightly competitive streak too. So those are pretty good rounds.
We created a cup We made it a championship tournament for everybody in the family. So every year we play for the cup, and there's an actual trophy. If you win it, your name gets engraved on a plaque and it gets stuck on the trophy. And it turns into a big competitive thing between like my dad, my brothers, my uncles, that sort of thing. So if you can organize a family tournament,
there it is.
But the thing is, when it comes down to it, and I'd won it 3 years in a row, he's within one stroke. I was real tempted to chunk that chip. I was real tempted to give him a fighting chance.
But the man in you said no.
Couldn't do it. But actually, beat him by 8.
It was a bit of a compromise. I hit a perfect chip, but I missed the putt. He won anyway. Oh. But it crossed my mind, maybe I should let Dad win this one.
Yeah.
That's the best. Yeah, you've got your kids are pretty athletic too, right? We were talking before the show started. So that was your so tell us about your kids. You said you have 3 kids, yeah?
I do. I have a son and a daughter. My son is a lacrosse player. You mentioned that he's athletic. So he played NCAA lacrosse down in Indianapolis. Had a great experience at UIndy. My daughter is a zoologist. She's a scientist, just graduated recently, and she works at a zoo in Hamilton right now. Oh. So it's weird when she comes home. You know, the first thing I think is, God, you got to wash your hands. I don't know what you've been touching today. A majority of a zoologist's job is cleaning up poop and stuff like that. Right. So she gets the Purell as soon as she gets in every night. And my son is a geologist. So I've got the 2 scientists there. My girlfriend's son, Anthony, is he goes to St. Andrews College, and he's a real good football player. Real good. I'd say he's a great prospect to carry on and play that at a collegiate level.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Nice. I've never actually talked about Anthony until this pod. So there you go.
Well, that's cool. So tell us more about Anthony. So what's the dynamic there?
A great kid. You know, he's we get along real well. I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, and
sorry to hear that.
He's an Eagles fan. And it was a real good year for him, I'll tell you that. But it made the Super Bowl and that playoff run real uncomfortable around our house. Sure. But, you know, the fact that we can disagree about football and still be friends, that's pretty special.
That's a big one. Yeah, we've had a lot of different dads on here, and we know that there's some uniqueness between biological and, kids that become stepkids and extended family. What is that like for you?
You know, I don't know if there's ever been an easy way found to introduce a kid to someone who's not their biological parent. It's almost sort of set up to be an awkward or adversarial thing. I got real lucky, though. I didn't have a bad experience at all. Him and I hit it off from the start, and we get along great. You know, on sort of a parenting level, but I mean, I think I know, and he knows that I'm not his parent. He's got parents, and I'm just sort of there as an extra set of eyes, ears, hands, however I can help him achieve his goals. And his goal is to play football, so his goal is my goal. And you know, I don't treat him any differently than I would treat my biological kids either.
I love that. What a huge benefit for him, though. Like, I mean, to have a parenting surplus or to have a little extra love, like that's, that's, you know, it goes the other way a lot of the times too. We get, you know, people that talk about growing up without, right? And that's hard to hear.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, everybody's in a different situation, but I mean, I think that for families that do have it, where there's 3 parents involved or 5 parents involved, it's, I think that that's great in a lot of different ways. There's still a bit of a taboo about it, to be perfectly honest. You know, there's still people who ask questions or raise an eyebrow or whatever, but very normal thing. And if there is a right way to do it, I'd say that the right way to do it is to just sort of respect that you're not the parent, but you do play a role there. And I think once everybody buys into that, it makes the whole situation a lot easier for everybody.
And just embrace it.
Embrace it. Yeah. I mean, you got an extra person that loves you, you know, like that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So for sure.
Yeah, and that level of commitment too, right? Like to not only have that person as a part of your, you know, tribe or family, and then have somebody that's advocating for you and have somebody that's going to be there for the long run, right? It's an awesome thing.
Life is hard, right? Especially when you're a kid growing up now. I mean, the set of challenges that they have are not the same challenges that we all had. Yeah. And, you know, they've got to navigate technology, and they're right on the brim of AI becoming a huge part of their lives, and they've got to figure it out. They also had that big long stretch there where there was not really any socialization during the pandemic.
For sure.
So they've got a lot of life is hard. And if you've got an extra cheerleader on your side, I think that that's a great thing to have.
And there's a different dynamic with every parent or person that they're close with. So there's probably things that he feels comfortable going to you with that he may not go to his dad or his mom with. You know what I mean? So it's nice to have that different dynamic for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a long time, as you know, to build trust. And it did take a long time to build trust. But I mean, we're certainly at a spot where we trust each other. And I think he knows he can trust me with just about anything. So, yeah, I mean, it's an extra person on your side. I think that's a good thing for anybody.
For sure.
Yeah. I want to talk about your podcast too, man.
Cool.
Just so for those who might be listening who might not be familiar with it. So it's Scott Fox After 9 is the podcast. Tell us about the format.
So I used to do a podcast when I was on the radio. It was Scott and Kat After 9. And the whole point of that was we would go on and do like a little show after the show. And it built up an incredible audience during COVID. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about doing the pod during COVID is that it was long form. I could play more than a 10-second clip of the premier talking or the prime minister talking. And I liked the freedom that podcasting offered there. But because I had the radio show, I didn't have time really to commit full time to working on the podcast and making it as good as I wanted to make it. When I left the radio, I had an opportunity. I had an audience that told me they wanted to be loyal. Wherever I go, they'll follow. Whatever I create, they'll support, that sort of thing. And I thought, I want to keep this going. And, you know, there's no reason in 2025 that you need a radio transmitter to be a broadcaster anymore. And I can still do the same show or something very similar, but I can do it in podcast form. And what makes it even better is that it's on demand. You know, not everybody is in the car between 7 and 9 a.m. And it doesn't matter how much you like the person on the radio. You're not getting up early.
Right.
Or if you've got something else to do or a call to take, you're going to miss that. And the fact that I can offer this on demand and you listen when it's convenient for you, I think it opened up a lot of possibilities for me. It allowed me to reach out to a slightly different audience. So, for example, I might not have picked up those people who don't start work until 10 or 11 a.m. They might not have any idea who I am. Now with the podcast, I'm being exposed to those people. And some people listen daily while they're walking their dog. That's their routine. Some people do it when they're at the gym. Some people do it in the car as an extra set of ears or a companionship. And however people listen to it, I certainly appreciate it. Being in this format has given me a lot of freedom and flexibility to do what I'm passionate about. And that's talk about current events and news. I'm a total news junkie. I spend all day flipping between CNN, Fox, CTV, Global, the list goes on. And in the podcast, I can talk more about what I think is important to people. On the radio, you don't really get a choice. You're going to play Sabrina Carpenter at 7. And at 7:03, you're going to play Shabuzi. And then you can talk for 2 minutes. And then you're going to play this song and that song. And then you're going to play 6 minutes of commercials. And when somebody gets done listening after a half hour, I struggle sometimes with, what did you hear? And how much of it did you hear? And did you appreciate the context that it was said in if you tuned in partway through? That was a struggle for me. In podcasting, I don't have that problem. You know, music, having no music is not a bad thing as far as I'm concerned, because I think you can still do a radio show without music.
Right.
And that's kind of what I'm doing. So every day I start off with what I always did on the radio, what you need to know. Here's how much gas prices are today. Here's how the weather's going to be. Here's if the Leafs won or the Raptors won last night, that sort of thing. And then I get into the news. And I do it long form and I use clips and things like that. For example, in today's episode, I was using audio from the Liberal leadership debate. And being able to put that out there and play a long form clip, a minute and a half long, that's important that I think people hear. I think that that's a service to Canada, because you're not getting that sort of thing in those quick clips that you hear on the local AM news stations.
Yeah. 10 seconds out of context that like is just the highlight point that doesn't really mean what was said, that kind of shit.
And stuff like that really shapes people's opinions. You know, if they hear the whole minute and a half, they get the context, the emotion and things like that. When you only hear 10 seconds, it's very easy to think that that was the gist of what was said. And there was a lot more to that 10 seconds over the 90 that had happened. So I try and present things in this show that I'm doing in a very balanced way. Sometimes I'll give my opinion, but I'll even go out of my way to say, I have a bias on this issue. I'm going to give you my opinion. And if you don't want to hear it, that's totally fine. Fast forward, hit the button 3 or 4 times and you won't have to hear what I think. But if you do want to think, here we go. And I will offer that. I'll offer some context. There's a lot of things politically that we didn't learn about in school. I swear our civics classes need to be updated, because some people didn't even understand what prorogation meant. And that should be a common thing. I knew what it meant, so I took a little bit of time to explain it. And then I started getting messages from people that are like, thank you for explaining that. I didn't know that. And what I read in Wikipedia didn't even make sense to me.
Right.
So that's one of the ways that I build the audience too, is there's people who use it for their news, and there's people who appreciate the extra context, the little tidbits that I can add. When the inauguration happened, I've been to 4 inaugurations. So I was able to talk specifically about here's when the president's going to come in. Here's when the dignitaries come in. Here's what's happening behind the scenes. It was really neat to be able to do that and offer that extra context that I couldn't do before on FM. I think that's why the podcast is taken off. It's allowing me to be a little bit more of me.
And by taking off, like you're like number 9 in all of Canada right now, or maybe number 8 by now. When we checked the other day,
it's funny because at first I was getting a lot of listeners on Spotify, and I was shooting up the Spotify chart. More people started coming in and listening on Apple Podcasts. Well, that takes away from your Spotify numbers.
Oh, okay.
So everything becomes relative, and there's not one real place that you can go to that'll say, here's the podcast, here's how many people listen to it.
Nothing combines all of them.
Nothing aggregates the whole thing.
Right.
So anyway, I was doing real well on Spotify. I've dropped off a little bit, but I also know that what I do in my pod is not necessarily an everyday thing for people. I do it daily, but especially when we get into a negative news cycle where it's just a lot of doom and gloom, some people tune it out, and I don't blame them, because at some point it just becomes hard to listen to because you're sick of being beat over the head with bad news.
Yeah.
So I got to do what I got to do. I got to talk about current events. And there are people who listen daily, absolutely. But there's some people who just dip in like once or twice a week just to hear what's going on, or something big in the world happens and they think, I want to hear what Scott has to say. That's the sort of reputation that I'm trying to build up with my audience. And I just want to be consistent and let people know that every day you'll get the news, you'll get some sports, you'll get some commentary, you'll get a little more context than you get from the mainstream news.
Right.
And it's free. I mean, podcasting is a great world of entertainment that some people have no idea about. Every day I run into people that have never listened to a podcast, and I think, wow, you'd be amazed at what's out there. Do you like Oprah? There's an Oprah podcast. Do you like baseball? There's like 50,000 baseball podcasts.
Right.
There's so much out there that's free to listen to. Sometimes I don't understand why people are still paying for cable. Between podcasts like this one and yours, yours and mine, and all the other things that are out there, it's a whole other world of entertainment that people will get there. It seems like it's a slow growth process,
For sure. Yeah. And a lot of people don't know how to build their podcast, or like build that platform to gain the followers too, is the other part, right?
Yeah. I mean, I heard a stat that 1,000 new podcasts a day come out, and that's overwhelming. I mean, that's a lot of competition. And sure, anybody could record a podcast, and you get the 4 or 5 people that you know to listen, and then it'll be 2 or 3 that listen to the next episode,
Right.
and then 1, and then eventually none. And you're wondering, why did I waste my time?
Yeah.
If you just wanted to do it, great. If you want to do it and build an audience, it's completely possible. I just think that you got to have a good angle, and you've got to present something that's not currently out there. So, for example, there's no Canadian Joe Rogan.
Right.
And that's not necessarily where I want to be, but I'd certainly love to have his download numbers.
For sure.
There's a market for that, though. A daily podcast that talks about current events, news, and gives you a little perspective. I come at most issues from the right. I try to be balanced, but I'm on the right. And I declare that bias in there. And people can take it for what it is. It's my opinion on various issues. I do try and give air, though, to other issues or to other perspectives. Just because I lean right doesn't mean the liberal way or the left way is wrong.
Yeah.
So I do try and present things in a fair way, and it's been working well. I'm building an audience, and if I can get to that level where Joe is, then it'll certainly make me happy.
The other day, you even interviewed one of the Liberal candidates that was running, that was going through this whole situation where I guess they were saying
they kicked her out of the race.
They kicked her out of the race because like China was supposed to be manipulating the numbers or something. It was so crazy.
It was Ruby Dalla, and she's kind of an outsider candidate that is not part of the establishment. When she was in Parliament, she was with Jean Chrétien and Paul Martin. And I think a lot of people would agree, if you're being objective, there's a big difference between the Jean Chrétien Liberals and the Justin Trudeau Liberals. So Ruby kind of wants to bring the party a little back to the way it was, a little more to the center. And they wouldn't give her any oxygen in this race. She got no media coverage. And then right before the debates, they kicked her out. So I reached out to Ruby and I said, hey, you got to talk. You need to get your side of the story out there. Come on my podcast. And mine was the very first she did. And then since then, I think she's realized the power of social media too, because during the Liberal debate, she was doing a TikTok live stream, and she had like 5 times more people watching her on TikTok than actually watched the debate.
Right.
It's incredible the audience you can harness with that sort of thing. Podcasting in particular, I think it's the future. Like I said, you don't need a broadcast tower anymore to be a broadcaster. You just need a microphone.
Yeah. And you have to run it like a business, right? People, try and open a business every day, but they don't really understand what's behind running a business. No different than 1,000 people a day trying to start a new podcast every day, right? Like if you don't take it seriously and you don't run it like a business, it's not going to grow. It's not going to be what you wanted it to be.
Right. And you know what? For some people, maybe that's okay. Maybe they're okay with just, I wanted to be a radio DJ, so I'm going to record a radio show and I'm going to put it out there. And if you just want it out there because you wanted the experience of doing it, good.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it to grow an audience, you can't do it without revenue. And I think that comes mainly through sponsorship and things like that. Yeah. I mean, if you treat it like a business, you can absolutely turn it into a business. I mean, you guys are off to a great start here. I don't know what you guys are doing as far as making it a business, but it certainly does create awareness for what you guys do at Burlington Dads. Your audience blows me away. I see the reach that you guys have on social media and I'm shocked sometimes, but good for you. I mean, building this podcast here and making it an extension of what you started. Hey, hats off to you.
Hey, we're super pumped to have you behind us too. Like as part of the Burlington Dads, the podcast, everything for sure.
There's a good broadcast community in Burlington. I mean, if you think about, I live here. Rick Campanelli lives here. Sean Cowan lives here. The Dave Creelman, another broadcaster on Light 92, lives here. And everybody is a member of this group. Yeah. You guys have become a bona fide source of information.
Yeah.
I hear lights in my sirens in my neighborhood, and I think to check here. What the heck happened?
Yeah, Sean's helped us out a ton when we do the toy drive. Obviously, he's had CHCH really step up and support us and give us some really good exposure for that event every year.
Great, and I'm happy to offer that to you guys too. I mean, my podcast is national, and the audience literally is from Newfoundland to Victoria. They're everywhere. But I'll tell my audience, there's a great cause in Burlington. And if you guys are doing something, I'm happy to help.
Yeah. And our goals are bigger for sure too. Like we're going to keep the Burlington Dads as a not-for-profit and keep that localized here. But we are registering a charity. It's close, hopefully May. We are going to have a national charity that's going to be called Dads Helping Others. Because the goal is to help more and be broader. But we don't want to lose the grassroots of what we have. So we didn't want Burlington Dads to become the charity because then we can't do a lot of the small stuff that we do to help out families and individuals. Because then you need to get copies of their financials, make sure they're living below the poverty line. So this is going to allow us to be able to do that, but still look at a bigger scale of hey, how can we help more people and be better for others for sure.
And that's what motivates you guys. It's the desire to help. It's a sense of community, I think, that everybody wants to feel, but you guys have put it on steroids. I mean, the work you guys do is really impressive.
Thanks,
man. Appreciate that. But I think it goes to what you say about building an audience and building that meaningful connection, right? Like for us, it's dads. That's an easy one. You and I can sit across from each other. And if I know you're a father right off the bat, I can connect on a few things and we're lucky enough to live in a space where being a good dad, not just a father, but a good one is a call to action. And the guys that we've put together have that as the common thread. So when it comes to the group, and kind of what we're hoping this podcast turns into is, okay, we got a lot of smart guys. We got a lot of accomplished guys. But how do we put that together and put it out there on a bigger scale so that, if somebody's listening to this, that might be the call to action, right? Like we got a text message as we were walking up the stairs from our good friend Nelson Borges, who runs Capillary Wave. And the text message he got was, okay, boys, just had a walk-in to our men's group health last night, group counseling session. And the only reason they knew about us and knew that this was available to them as treatment was because of the podcast.
Wow.
So again, it's oh, that's cool. So you say you get the feedback from your guests. I'm interested. How do they connect with you?
So I used to, when I was on the radio, communication is easy. You've got a text line and things like that. And the number that people call in for a contest, they can just text that number now. That completely changed radio. The phone stopped ringing, essentially. Right. People just text in because that's the preferred way to communicate, I think, for most people. And I used to be able to get texts on demand in real time. And that was great. Here's Susie listening in Kitchener, and here's what Susie says. I can't do that because the podcast, I record every morning at 7 a.m. Right. And I try to get it out for about 9 a.m. But I have to put out the episode and let it resonate and garner some feedback. The only way to do it now, unless you guys have a better way, is through DM. But I found that people are actually very comfortable sending their perspective and their opinion through DM. So it's primarily Instagram, sometimes TikTok. I sort of treat that like the text line. People have sent me some nasty messages, and I might cut out part of the nastiness, but if the reason that they disagreed is included in there, I'll include that perspective on the next podcast because I think it's important to get out different views on different topics.
For sure.
Nobody should have their mind made up for them on any issue. And if I can offer diverse voices, I always do, whether they agree with me or not.
As long as they're respectful. Yeah.
As long as they're respectful. I don't know what it is, but people say a lot of things online that they wouldn't say to your face.
Oh, yeah.
It's really, really frustrating sometimes.
You should try and moderate a group of 6,500 men.
I can imagine.
Watch what happens then.
I can imagine. Like, that must be a full-time job in itself.
Or just take my truck for a drive down the road.
Yeah. By the way, that
Jamie's
truck
cyber truck.
Beautiful. Do people criticize you for that truck?
Yeah, so literally today driving here, usually once a day somebody will give me the finger, just an aggressive finger right out the window. Today, dropped the kids off at school and I was driving here and I was stopped at a red light and somebody was going through the intersection and they're looking at me and they're waving their hands in the air they're angry at me, and then they stick up a big L up at their forehead like I'm a loser, and I'm like, have you seen yourself in the last 30 seconds? And
Wow.
I'm a loser.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Do you like it? Is it what you expected it would be?
I love it. So I didn't really know what I expect, because I put the deposit on it 5 years ago when it was oh, I'm gonna build a Roblox designed car and it's gonna be bulletproof, and I was like, this sounds ugly and hideous, and I'm totally in for it. After getting it, I am super pumped about it. It's crazy fast. It's super comfortable. It crawls through 1.5 feet of snow, no problem. You see all these stupid videos online of
the internet says
summer tires, and you see a Cybertruck stuck on a street, and it's all right, well, a Civic could be stuck on the street too if it had summer tires.
Nobody's taking pictures of that.
No. So, but totally happy. It's awesome. I love it. I don't like the attention it garners, but I wrapped it in bright blue, so it's gonna garner
you kind of asked for that. What do your kids think? Are they stop driving us to school in that?
No, my kids absolutely love it. My wife hates it, but
really?
my kids love it. Yeah.
Good.
She hates it, but then when we're driving the kids to soccer on Sunday, she's like, it is so comfortable. And she drives an Escalade, so she drives a vehicle that's pretty comfortable too. She's
pretty good.
I can't believe how smooth this is. But she won't drive it. She won't be caught dead driving it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's a truck, right?
Yeah.
Have you used it for any truck type stuff? Have you towed a boat, or have you gone to Home Depot to get some drywall?
No,
or?
I've only had it 3 weeks now. So the way the box on it works, it's got a powered thing that covers the back. So with all the snow, I don't want to keep opening it and closing it, because then the back's just going to get full of stuff. But in the summertime, I'd keep it wide open for sure, because then I can keep the back window rolled down and have that top up.
Huh?
Yeah, but it's a legit full truck. It's got a ton of towing capacity, a ton of horsepower. It's 860 horsepower.
And do people not like it because it's a cyber truck, or because they don't like Elon Musk?
So I think a lot of that is changed over, which is not because I don't like to get political on here either and voice too many views, but when I bought it, I wasn't a big green energy person, or I'm buying this because it's an electric vehicle. I bought it because it was totally different. It was a spaceship, and I was like, this is cool, and I just want something that's different. Everybody back then was fully behind Elon. The whole left was behind Elon. He was the biggest Democratic supporter.
He was saving the world.
Captain California. And yeah, absolutely. And now that and then once it was released 2 years ago, there were still haters out there that hated the Cybertruck because it was ugly and looked like a spaceship. But there was none of this true hatred.
Now it's political hatred.
In the last 6 months,
Yeah.
now it's political hatred. And anybody that drives one is driving a swastika truck.
Oh,
that's the online thing about, and which is it's crazy. So you're okay when you go pump your gas though and fill your vehicle up with Saudi Arabian gas that they're raping and killing children and wives. You're okay pumping your gas and you're not thinking about that.
A lot of people don't think of that sort of stuff, or they choose to ignore that.
They choose to ignore it. Yeah, they follow with the popular narrative. So the narrative is hey, hate Elon and hate this and hate the Cybertruck because he did a stupid hand motion or whatever. But it's well, if you're going to go there, then go there with everything. And look at your big picture of what you're doing with your life. Cause you're supporting a lot of are you wearing Nike shoes? I buy Nike shoes all the time. They're made in Chinese factories by kids that are getting paid 3 cents. You know what I mean?
to an American-owned company.
Yeah, exactly. So like, if you're gonna go that perspective everywhere, but nobody does.
No, it's weird because you almost kind of got to feel people out these days. Like before you say anything like what you just said. I mean, you probably don't normally talk about how you feel about Elon Musk or the change in the mood in the country, but I like flags, and I got a really great property in Alton Village, and I have a flagpole. And I like to change the flags for different occasions. And I will do, when it's Robbie Burns Day, I'll put up my Scottish flag. And when it's Remembrance Day, I've got a Remembrance Day flag. Canada flag most of the time, but I'll always acknowledge the American events. And I was going to put up my American flag for the inauguration of Donald Trump. And then I thought, is that sending a statement to the neighbors? Am I being too political by doing that? I shouldn't have to do that. I've done that every other year. That's just a patriotic thing that I think we do. Hey, the Americans are swearing in a new president. I should put up my flag. I didn't do it this year just because I wasn't sure how the neighbors would feel about it.
For sure.
And I don't know why we feel that way.
It's sad in a way. You know what I mean?
In a way, it is, yeah.
People will flip-flop their feelings just based on a couple stupid decisions or a couple things that are out there in the newspapers and stuff, which is the wrong way to deal with stuff. But yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
I don't let it bother me.
Yeah.
Perspective is a tough thing to cover too, like especially in your role where you're trying to stay center and you're trying to have, productive discussions on the news. Like what do you use? Like, so in that example, when it's the American flag, you gauge popular opinion, right? That's probably the only way to do it. And then how do you implement that into your show?
I mean, I try and think of my audience because, I've got my opinion, but it's really not about me. It's about the audience and the people that tune in. And I think that the vast majority of the country is in the center. I think that if we did a poll that was completely confidential and everybody answered honestly and everybody took it, we'd probably see that about 70 to 80% of the country wants to be conservative on finances and fiscal issues and keep our books in order. But we want to be compassionate on the social issues and, things like $10 a day childcare. That's something that we should absolutely try and achieve. But the financial side of me says it's going to take 5 years to get there instead of 2. I'm going to wait out those extra 3 years because I want to think about it practically. But I also want to be able to offer those things and be compassionate for people who need these programs and services. And I think that's where the vast majority of the country is. So I try and speak to that. It's hard with social media because depending on the algorithm you're in, you might think the entire world hates Donald Trump, or you might think that Canada should be the 51st state or whatever the discussion is. The algorithm you get in really shapes what you see, and that shapes your opinion.
Right.
And I try to drown that out as much as possible. I'm on social media all the time trying to do prep for the next day, but you've really got to filter it out and just say, what's the common sense, middle of the road, most people can agree on perspective? And that's usually the one I try and represent on the pod because I think that's the most representative of where we are.
Yeah.
I use that $10 a day childcare example. A $10 a day childcare example. That's a great one. It's costing us a lot of money. It was controversial in a way, and people still aren't paying $10 a day. I don't have a problem with the premise of that. And maybe that's irresponsible financially, but I think that helps out a lot of families.
Yeah.
So I think that that's a good common sense thing. But to pay for that, we have to make sacrifices elsewhere. And it doesn't seem like the current government or any government recently has made those sacrifices. So I think that's what shapes my opinion. I also try and think of where people are at. There's a lot of people struggling right now. Some people doing okay. Young people are really struggling to be able to afford a home and even find a job in a lot of cases. So when you think of, I can watch that debate last night or see the prime minister on TV. I don't know that they really understand what's going on in neighborhoods like ours. And that's the reality of what's going on. There's a lot of people struggling and uncertain. So if I can represent that voice, that's what I try and do. And so far, so good. I'm sure there's people who have tuned in and thought, I do not like this guy. But other people, I think, have tuned in and thought, here's a good common sense, middle of the road, not overly skewed one way or the other source for news. So
Right.
I think that's why my audience is building.
And you value both sides of the opinion at least, right? So like that's a big thing to be able to talk both sides of an argument.
Do you remember when, and it wasn't that long ago, we used to go out with buddies? We would go out with our buddies and, hey, let's go to Kelsey's and have a couple of beers and chat. And we could talk about current events. And you could have someone who's on the left and someone on the right having a couple of beers and talking things out. We don't do that anymore. It's all through social media and it's all through short comments that are under 200 characters. And it's really not advancing the cause because I feel like we've got a lot more in common than different. We just don't talk anymore.
For sure.
And if we all made an effort to do that, especially guys, there's got to be more guys' nights. There's got to be more bonding like that.
Yeah.
We got to get back to that place where, well, it'd be nice if the beer prices came down, but we've got to get back to that place where I can say, hey, let's go over to the judge and talk.
For sure.
Right now, I don't even broach the subject with some guys because I just don't want to hear the nonsense.
Everybody wants to be a keyboard warrior. Nobody wants to go out and be a bro anymore.
Absolutely. We need more bros.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're looking at 2 and we're always down. We believe that too. And like one of the subjects that we weave through our little show is the men's mental health piece. So knowing what you just said about the bro side of things, the face-to-face side of things, where's your stance on men's mental health?
I think there's a lot of guys that are struggling. And I think that there is not nearly as many resources available to men as there is to women. And that frustrates me. And I don't want to say that our current system is broken by any means. It's just, I think men were sort of an afterthought when it came to mental health issues. And I'm glad that we're getting to a place where guys are starting to feel more comfortable and talk to other guys. We just mentioned bros. I mean, that's a thing. And if you have a friend that you trust that you can call up and say, I'm just not feeling right, I think that that's one of the most important things. There's resources available from there, but the first step is knowing you're not alone. And having someone, I think every guy needs someone that's not their partner.
Yeah.
Someone else that they can talk to. And there is people out there that don't have that. I've become that for a lot of my listeners, not a lot, but a number of my listeners that I'm the only person they talk to every day or that talks to them every day.
Right.
And when they get into a weird headspace, which some of them are, like some of the people are really dealing with awful stuff, I feel a responsibility to try and help personally. And it's nice to see it becoming a little more normalized that you can totally admit if you're not okay.
Yeah.
I think we got to keep getting that message out because there's still a lot of guys that are in the same way. I won't necessarily tell you as soon as we meet, hey, I'm a Trump supporter. They're not going to give you any indication that they're struggling, but everybody is struggling with something. It's just the severity or the severe or the degree of the severity.
Right.
Sorry, is what you have to assess.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. And I think that it's having these different channels. And when somebody is struggling, it might not make sense to go out in a public setting. It might not make sense to go out with the boys because the boys might want to just have a good time and your headspace might not be there. But creating opportunities to get access to support, that's the big one. And much like you talk about podcasting being this cutting edge and growing source of information and media, I think that's the same thing too. Like, I hope on our podcast, we have guys like you that come on and say, hey, you have a voice and you're a notable voice and you say things like it's okay, right? Like
it's totally okay. And I think that the other thing too is guys need to be completely respectful of other guys that are going to be vulnerable. And if I come to you and say, you know what, I just don't feel like talking to anybody. I don't feel like going anywhere. I don't feel like hanging out. And it's nothing personal. I just don't feel like doing that right now. Understand that he's not being a antisocial or whatever. He's dealing with something and that's how he's choosing to process it. The far better response, rather than make fun of him because he doesn't want to go out and watch football on Sunday night, is I'm here if you need me.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk, no problem.
Let him internalize it for a little bit. Follow up the next day. Just check in on him.
It's so much more thoughtful an approach to let somebody know that they can trust you and that you're there for them and that you sympathize with what they're going through. Because there's a lot of guys that feel alone.
Yeah.
Generationally, that's evolving. So like one of the questions I'm going to ask too is, so go back to your dad for a second. Where do you think your dad's mindset is on that? And what did your dad teach you about mental health growing up?
Growing up, it was slightly different generation. So I was Gen X and we were the generation that was told, suck it up, figure it out.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, I don't necessarily think that was all bad. I think it taught us responsibility, accountability, and it forces you to take stock of how are you feeling and why and deal with it. I think that there's probably a compromise between that and where we're at now with raising kids. I don't want to go too far down that road, but I mean, I think we can all agree that the parenting style of the 2020s is very different from the parenting style of the 90s or even the 80s.
Yeah.
And there was a balance there between suck it up and everything is okay and snow plowing every issue that your kid has to deal with for them. I think that we're getting there. It's just going to take a little more time and a lot more education.
Yeah.
And guys supporting other guys. I mean, that's the most important thing when it comes to mental health is a guy has to know that there's other people out there that get it.
I try and still parent my boys the way my dad raised us as like, hey, like toughen up, you got to stay strong, you got to have a little bit, you got to deal with adversity. But I think we've evolved to the point where we also now understand that like, but your kids are going to go through some things that they can't just toughen up and push through. And having that mindset as parents and as guys to know that and be able to help them through that is the big step, right? Like I still want my kids to grow up and be like, hey, like you got knocked down or you got hit at hockey, like get the fuck up and like get back in the game, right? Like keep your stick on the ice, keep your head up and go smash somebody else. Like you still want to parent them that way, or I do, but you do need to realize that like some shit's going to happen at school sometimes that your kid can't internalize and he's going to be scared to tell you. I want him to be able to tell me so that I can help him through that and not just have him expect me to say, hey man, like toughen up, like you'll be fine.
I'm in a very similar boat. I see it a similar way. I mean, we used to be told, suck it up, figure it out. Playground fights, that sort of thing. That was how we dealt with things back then, particularly if it was a situation of bullying. And unfortunately, some kids right now think everything is bullying, every negative comment they hear. And I think that there's got to be a bit of a toughening up on that sense, and realizing what the true problems are and what the real threats are and what the issue is. So helping kids work through that, I think, is really important, and making them understand literally every single kid is going through it. The kid who's bullying you is probably being bullied by somebody else, and they were bullied by somebody else. Like we're all doing it to each other. We love to figure it out. But until then, not everything is bullying, and you do have to toughen up, and you do have to confront issues from time to time. Stand up for yourself. Like those are all messages that I don't know if we should shy away from.
For sure.
I think they should still be in a parent's toolbox for parenting.
Oh, I think so for sure. And if you're going to try and raise kiddos to go full circle about being competitive and wanting to beat dad and wanting to whatever, like you need to have that edge. You need to have some backbone so that you can get through life. Because as much as, I try and create a safe environment for my kids and I try and give them advantages when I can, I'm not there the whole time, and life is going to come knocking. And if you don't have that resilience, man, it gets real scary out there.
100%. I mean, I'm very similar to you. I thought my parents did a great job. So my parenting style very much reflected theirs with a few modern modifications. I mean, I didn't get spanked as a kid, so I didn't even threaten to spank my kids, but there was certainly consequences if you're screwing around, and that worked. That helped. I'm pretty happy with the adults that they've turned into now. They're both scientists and university grads. It tells me I did something right anyway. I think I'm on the right track there. I think people who do that are on the right track with raising their kids.
What do you think your kids would say about you? If we had your kids sitting there today, what would your kids say about?
I think probably the if nothing else, the work ethic. I worked a lot when I was doing morning radio on Z103.5. That was up at 3 a.m. I'm at the office until noon. I got to sleep, and then I got a club gig tonight. And I was doing those like 5 nights a week at one point. So I missed a lot of stuff. I think that they probably would like to have spent a little more time with me, and they probably wish they would have had me around a little bit more. But I think that they certainly appreciated the work ethic because I see it in them. And I see them wanting to work hard to keep excelling. If you want more money, go make it. And I see them being entrepreneurs and being creative. And that's all stuff that inspired me when I was younger. And if that's the takeaway that they get is hustle and make yourself successful. If you want it, go get it. Then I'm pretty happy with that. I think that that's what they would say is the work ethic. That's and awesome. That I was away a lot.
Yeah. And then same question, but you with your dad, like how would you summarize your dad? What are the things you remember the most about being a kid around him? And maybe you've got an example of something he taught you that stuck with you.
My dad he has a very similar mindset as me. We do not agree on politics, but we agree on most other things, and hustle and work ethic, I think, is what got him to where he's at now, a pretty high up executive in the broadcast industry. I think that paid off for him, and it paid off for me. Watching your dad do what he does every day sends a message, and it resonates with kids. Like, even if you don't talk about it, even if they never say to you, hey, how come you do this every morning at 8 a.m. when you're leaving? They still notice those things, and they appreciate your routine. And if nothing else, if they want to go to Disney World on vacation, well, I mean, that's a $20,000 vacation these days. You got to work hard to do that. And when you have to tell them, no, we just can't afford a $20,000 vacation, they see that too. And I think that it sets out a realistic expectation for kids that if you want it, you can get it, but you got to work for it. And my dad did that. I did that, and now I see my kids doing that, and it's inspiring for me. But it all does go back to my dad, because he did set the tone, and he was the one who told me, you're not getting an allowance for free. You're going to earn it. And then from there, it was, if you want a car, go buy one. I'm not buying you one.
Yeah.
And teaching responsibility like that. I probably had a tendency to give my kids more things than my parents would have made me work for. But I think that that's just a progression in parenting that isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, as long as they stay humble, they understand it, they respect it, then, why not, right? That's what we're trying to do for our kids anyways. We want them to have more.
We want them to.
We just want them to respect it and still be humble about it.
Well, that's the thing, right? And I mean, there's an unrealistic expectation for some kids out there that it's as easy as you just got to make the right bet on a sports betting app or something like that. And that's how you get rich. Or you got to do the one thing on TikTok that takes off, and then you're an influencer all of a sudden, and things like that. Sure, that's a bona fide career path for some, but it's not for everybody. I mean, I'd put that up there with playing for a pro sports team, becoming an influencer.
Yeah, the odds, yeah.
The odds are insane. The reality is that if you want a real good paying job that's steady and you get benefits and pensions and stuff like that, you've got to go this way, and you've got to work hard to maybe get into the trades. If you want more of an executive lifestyle and you want to be in an office 9 to 5, you got to go this way. I think we have to steer them in the right direction. But if we just leave them to decide, they're very indecisive people, young people these days. You really got to help them and steer them to where they want to go. It starts with knowing what their goals are. And when you can find that out from your kid, you can be so much more efficient when you're trying to help them. If you find out, I want to be an artist. Okay, well, at least that gives me somewhere to start. Like, let's start looking at options for artists and how much money you can make. And if they say, you know what, I really want to be an artist, but I can't live off of that little amount of money. Well, then you're going to have to adapt your plans.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to upgrade your skills or do whatever it is you want to do. But the point being that everything's possible. You just have to work for it. Like, don't expect anything to get handed to you, I guess is a good way to summarize that.
For sure.
Yeah. By the way, I talk to myself for an hour every morning before I talk to anybody else. I fill an hour of content on this podcast alone, just me talking. So if I'm like boring the heck out of people here, or I'm going on way too long, you feel free to hit the fast forward button, or maybe you guys can cut me down a little bit. I'm sure this is a little long winded, and I could have done this a little more expeditiously.
This is awesome.
we don't do that on this show, Scott. We're sit down.
Well, then I apologize. I hope you're having a coffee.
You're gonna listen. You're gonna enjoy it.
Coffee, 2 pee breaks.
Yeah, we put a lot of time into this. You can follow along. Okay, we're lucky to have Scott here. No fast forwarding. So the other thing that I'm interested with, so you're on this podcast journey. What's the next 5 years for you? Where's it all heading? What do you want to do?
Well, I want everything to happen as quickly as possible. And I'd love to think that all of my old radio listeners follow me over to the pod and things like that. But the reality is it doesn't happen like that, and it doesn't happen that quickly. And there's an education process. So right now, my goal is to reach out to those people that used to listen to me on the radio, bring them to the podcast, help them understand that it's an everyday thing. It's not exactly the same because you're not going to hear the music, but it is still the things that I would have been talking about on the radio every day in a podcast form. Once I get them over there and I build that audience up, the sky's the limit. I mean, there's so much more that you can do with a podcast that you can't necessarily do with a radio station. Being your own boss, being the main driver of that. If I wanted to do a live show, I'm sure that's something that's probably crossed your minds too. It's totally attainable. I can do that, and I don't have to go through 15 different people to get it done.
Right.
I might get to that level. I don't know. I think I'm just comfortable every day in my studio doing that podcast, and it's a service for people that's free. Hopefully they like it. If they don't, I hope they don't listen to it. But either way, it's there, it's available, and that's what I'm good at, and it's kind of all I'm trained to do as well. It's a tough job market out there.
How often do you bring on guests right now? Like, how often do you have a guest, or is it usually just you and doing the current event stuff?
It's usually just me, but I do bring on guests. I don't want to make the guests as similar or that similar to the content. So if there's a big political story, I'm going to have a politician on. But I also like talking to regular folks. It's amazing how many great stories there are out there. If I went through your list of followers on Facebook, randomly picked out one of them, I'll bet they've got one hell of a story that no one's asked them to tell.
Yeah.
And I'd really like to single out people like that and find those interest stories, the stories that need to be told, but they don't have another voice.
For sure.
That's the sort of thing I want to do for the interview series. I'll still do my daily stuff. I also don't want to bombard people. Like, this is probably something that's crossed your mind too. How often do you put stuff out?
Right.
If I put out an interview every day, plus the regular podcast every day, I'm putting a lot of notifications on people's phones, and I don't want to be a pain in the butt for them either.
Yeah. So you're going to use the interview stuff as kind of like a highlight thing. Like,
Yeah.
next month I might have this person, or next week maybe this person, that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that I learned in radio was the value of the sponsorships. And there's only so many dollars in a business. And if a business owner makes the decision to allocate some money to marketing, they want that to be as efficient as possible. So I feel a responsibility, if somebody wants to sponsor my podcast, to give them as much exposure as possible and make sure that that investment works. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who have spent a lot of money on things that didn't work. So I want to try and at least give them the best fighting chance. So I might bring on a sponsor from time to time and just talk to them about their business. That can be an interesting thing. Like, forget the fact that, yeah, you're a sponsor, you're paying to be on this podcast. They still have a good story to tell. And you know, like, the story of your business, I'm sure is a great story. Did anybody ever ask you to tell it? But people would be fascinated by it.
Right.
How you did it, how you create a business from nothing. And I like stories like that. So from time to time, I'll bring my sponsors on as well.
That's cool.
Yeah, we're trying to balance that out right now too. That's a big thing Jamie and I always think about, is just what's the right, like, you know, because obviously this isn't free, and it you know, if we'd like to have the kind of platform we'd like to have, that's certainly not free. So you kind of have to balance out that.
Miles isn't the volunteer of the year again.
Shout
Are you
out
saying
Miles.
we're getting another invoice for this shit?
So it's a balancing act, right? And you don't want to, you know, go back to what we were saying about trying to stay on center. It's the same thing with what you're saying about your community and your people, right? Like, if somebody's paying you to be there, then you've got a bias, right?
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a balancing act. Do you ever do anything? You said live stream, but do you ever do any live events these days? Speaking engagements?
So I used to do them a lot. When I was on the radio, it's just sort of expected when you're on the radio that you'll go to different community events. And a lot of radio people don't do them. I had a different philosophy, because I think that my philosophy used to be every hand that you shake and every selfie you take is a connection with somebody. You know, when your name comes up, I like it when people can say, I know him, or I met him. And that's why I try and get out to as many events as possible. Not as many with podcasts. I don't know if people just sort of assume that because I'm not on the radio anymore, I don't do them, but I host a lot of fundraisers for hospitals in particular.
Oh, yeah.
When they do those big fundraiser dinners, I do the Milton Hospital one every year. I have since I lived there. And even though I'm not there anymore, I still appreciate the work that any healthcare professional does. So I'll help out the hospital as much as possible, because they don't get funding for the equipment they want to buy. It still blows me away that in Ontario, hospitals need to fundraise if they want a new CT machine or an MRI. So I always do those ones as much as possible. I do a lot of golf tournaments, and I've been asked to speak to a few broadcasting classes recently. That's all on Zoom. So fairly easy thing. It doesn't take up a lot of my time.
And not as fun for you if it's like over Zoom too, right?
Not as fun. I do like being out at events and things like that, but the truth is nobody's asked recently. So
Well, September 13th, hopefully you don't have any plans.
okay,
It would be awesome to have
golf
you
tournament,
at the-
fundraiser. What are we doing?
The BD golf tournament.
Oh, that's it. I was going to play in that this year, but here's one of the things that maybe you guys.
I think we'll break 100 grand this year. So like, it would be awesome to have somebody like you out there to host the dinner party.
Oh, I would love to do that.
Yeah.
Can I play in the tournament too?
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
please
Yeah.
do.
Good.
Yeah.
What was the lowest score last year?
Oof, I don't know.
Well,
Definitely not ours.
You have to ask lowest score that we believe is submitted
right.
accurately.
Uh-huh.
That versus lowest score.
I don't
would be
even know what
different.
it'd be.
It would be like 1,200. Normally gets our tournament.
Is that right? Eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Golf tournaments are another great thing. It can be fun. Some of them drag on way too long.
No,
I'm sure you guys have been to them.
Yeah,
where
we had
Ours is quick.
our first one that we did. We had some, you know, because obviously we're dads and we try and do the dad brand. So, and you've been to a lot of golf tournaments. So at reception, when you checked in, we had sponsored a Croc fitting. So you got out of your car and into a fresh pair of Crocs. That's how the
Beautiful.
tournament started. And then we try and do something on every single hole. And some of the holes had at least two things going. So we had, you know, thanks to our group and great supporters, we had food, drink, experiences,
An activity on
giveaways,
every hole.
activities. Like
Good.
we try and have fun with it. And when our tournament goes too, we take, we're at 27 holes now, and we could probably fill out 40 if there was a big enough golf course.
We had 220 golfers last year.
Holy, well, wow, that's incredible.
But the dinner part, you're right. Like those drag on, and it's like fucking pulling teeth when you go to some of those tournaments. We make sure that like, so I think we're off the course by like 5:45. We're out of there by like 7:30.
Perfect.
So like as soon as guys sit down and like before the dinner starts, like I make sure we start giving the speeches right away. Start doing like, we give one or two of the charities that are going to be there, give them like 3 to 5 minutes. As people are eating, we're doing like handing out the shit right away, and there's no auction happening at our tournament. So like we'll do like 2 or 3 live auction things if we get like a big item.
Yeah.
But our online auction starts like a week before the tournament and ends the day after the tournament. So there's not all that like you're begging people to come up for 2 hours and bid $10 at a time. Like we're out of there after an hour and a half.
So I saw the publicity for the last one, and I thought, man, I'd love to play in that. I like this Facebook group. These guys seem like good guys. I'd like to play. But what held me back is, and maybe there's other guys that are listening to this that didn't, or that feel the same. I didn't know anybody. And I thought, I don't want to register.
Yeah.
Like, do I have to buy a foursome and bring 3 friends, or can I just sign up and you'll pair me with 3 other good guys?
Yeah. And
or girls.
And when we look at that, like, because all the registrations come into myself and Fabello, when we look at those, we try and pair guys up that are like-minded kind of personalities. And if we don't know them, we'll ask them like, hey, are you a really good golfer? We'll put like good golfers together if that's their goal. Are you looking to just have like a fun day? And guys will be like, I've never golfed before. I just want to come out and meet some of the guys. It's like, okay, I got a foursome for you. So like we'll put those together based on what the guy's goal is for the day.
Okay, now that I know that, I'll 100% play next year.
And it's a piss up, trust me. It's not.
Oh, really? That's even better than
it is not like a super classy thing. Like it's a blast, and the guys are super respectful, but it's a piss up. It's a blast.
Yeah, and that pretty much goes for any of the events too, man. Like if anybody's listening on any of them, like goes back to that creating a tribe and finding that opportunity to go out and be social. Like just show up, man. Like and you know, Kozib and I and a few of the other guys who have been around for quite a while, I'll go out of my way to shake a new hand and just say like, hey man, I haven't seen you. Or sometimes what happens is have only seen you on Facebook and have seen, you know, name and whatever. So, you know, nice to see you in the real world kind of thing. We try and, because it is about that inclusion piece. And I know for a lot of guys, that might be like a big step out, right? Like if you just moved to Burlington and you don't know anybody, like let's go. It's a fun time, man. It's a great group.
You know, I'd really like to be a part of that for sure. So yeah, put me down. I'm in.
That's wicked.
You're in.
I'll get you some prizes donated too.
No, that'd be great, man. That's cool. We love the support. Like Jamie said, we're trying. This one should be our biggest yet, and there's a chance, knock on wood, where we might actually break 6 figures raised on this one.
We did 66 at the last one, and our problem with this one and the previous one wasn't the sponsorships, because we sold. I'll usually put the sponsorships out to like the top 20 guys first. Like I'll message them privately in a group and be like, hey, like you're normally our top sponsors. Here's the options. And I'll send them out in like May or June for the September tournament. Within 30 minutes, every sponsorship is gone except a couple like whole sponsors or something like that.
Right.
So our problem hasn't been the sponsorship side. So I think like with us getting the exposure we're getting and increasing the sponsorship numbers a little bit, like I think we'll hit close to 100 grand. Our problem this year and last year was selling 220 or 230 spots, because with the cost going up of everything, and for us to try and make something for the charities, like for us to break even doing it at Carlisle, like we had to charge $225 last year a person, because it includes 2 drinks, lunch, dinner. Everybody gets a $30 or $40 hat, like instead of those shitty golf shirts that everybody gives out, we give like a really good hat.
18 holes, shit on every single hole. Like it's high value, but it is high ticket. And I think it also is the people that, you know, we want new people to come out.
And it does sell out, but it's not as quick as the sponsorship. It's like the week and a half before the tournament, the last 50 spots get booked in, because guys don't plan that shit 3 months in advance.
Of course we don't.
Yeah. They're like, I don't know what I'm doing in September. It's not even end of June yet.
Okay, but I mean, this is a good reminder though for people to keep it in the budget.
Yeah.
It'll be in and around 225, maybe as high as like 250, but you're going to get incredible value for it. And if you're going to play one tournament this year, save the date for that one, September 13th.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Great. Sounds better in his voice.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you should.
You can clip that and make it a commercial.
Yeah.
Fuck it, I quit.
That's right. That's right.
I had to reach out to Jamie when I saw this group, and I'd seen dozens and dozens of posts before that. I don't know which one it was, but I finally said, I got to meet this guy. Whoever is coming up with this and organizing these events that is raising so much money, I want to find out who they are and what they do. So I actually reached out to Jamie when I was still on the radio. I feel bad about this. I said, hey, I really want to do an interview with you because I think you've got a great story. Then bam, I got fired. So I will have you on my podcast.
I think at the time it was you had just broke your ankle or broke your leg or something. So you're like, I'm actually off for like 2-3 weeks. Otherwise, I'd have you on right away. And then after that, there was.
And then I got fired. Yeah. That's another thing, though. We have a great hospital here. The Joe Brandt was great. I didn't break it. I had an old golf injury repaired.
Oh, okay.
I was golfing one day up in Port Elgin, and I was on a hill, and I'm not going to take a drop. I'm competitive. I'm going to hit that ball where that ball is and deal with whatever happens. But after I hit it, I slipped and I rolled my ankle. And I went to the ER up there because it was really swollen. And they x-rayed it and they said, it's fine. It's just a sprain. You'll be good. Just ice and Advil. It was actually broken. That was how badly I rolled it. That was like 12 years ago. So I've been putting off getting it fixed. Though after 12 years, I finally decided to get it fixed. And that's when they let me go from work. Jeez.
Well, you get some good rest.
I did get some great rest.
Yeah.
The recovery time was amazing. But yeah, I feel bad about that I asked you to come on my show and then I lost my job. And then it's kind of weird to reach back out like, hey, sorry about that.
No, it's all good.
So chronologically,
interview.
just to recap it for listeners, you reached out to Jamie thinking he might be a good interview guest. Jamie responded.
that.
You got to know him. It fell apart.
It totally fell apart.
Makes
Yeah.
sense. Makes sense. Yeah. Just to
He sobered up. And then
Yeah. Like, what did I offer?
he was reading his messages the next morning going, whoa.
Oh, what did I say?
Yeah.
What did he
That's
say?
an uncomfortable feeling when you don't know what's coming.
Yeah, you get real with Jamie. Jamie's real. What else we got on the go? Anything else you want to talk about or plug or?
How's The Rock doing? Are they doing well this year?
Yeah, no. No, The Rock is, it's really, really cool to be able to work for the team that you cheer for. And you see things from a totally different perspective. And this is my 10th season with the team. And there's sort of a bit of confusion around the team because of what's going on in Hamilton. So they were playing at Scotiabank Arena for years. And they moved to First Ontario Centre like 4 years ago. Real great crowds coming into Hamilton. And the best part of that was they got to pick the nights that they wanted their games on. If you're playing at Scotiabank Arena, you get what's left after the Leafs, Raptors, and other teams pick. So the team moving to Hamilton made perfect sense for me. And the people in Hamilton and Burlington really supported it. It was great. Now it's under renovations. So they had to close down for a year. So the team this year is playing in Mississauga at Paramount Fine Food Center.
Oh, yeah.
It only holds like 5,000 people. It's tough because there's a big demand for people that want to cheer on the team, but they can't get tickets or it's too small a venue.
It's a different crowd where like Hamilton has that like real blue collar gritty crowd that like would love what lacrosse is.
So I think Hamilton's one of the best sports cities around, and they don't have a whole ton. But when you look at the passion of the Argos fans, Ticats fans, and Forge FC, is it Forge?
Fans.
Bulldogs, absolutely, really, really loyal. So it made great sense for the team to do that. They're in Mississauga this year. Slow start out of the gate. I think they went 0-5 to start the season. Now they've put themselves in a tough situation where I think they've got to go like 6-0 for the rest of the season to even make the playoffs. So looks like a rebuild. I don't want to speak on behalf of the team, but looks like they're rebuilding, and they just traded away a whole bunch of players. A few of them from here in Burlington just got traded to other teams yesterday. I don't know if it's a rebuild. I don't want to speak for them, but it seems like they're rebuilding. But next year they'll be back in Hamilton, and they're going to build a championship team. Like
and I know facility's supposed to be awesome.
I heard that players are going to like playing there more than they like Scotiabank Arena, and performers are going to like doing concerts there more than Scotiabank because the accessibility, they don't have the same traffic problems that Scotiabank's got. It's a disaster. And Hamilton is just going to be nice. Like they're building it as a concert venue, but also an arena.
Yeah.
The plans are gorgeous. It's going to be an awesome facility.
Yeah. They haven't decided yet. Or I don't think it's public knowledge as to like which AHL or OHL team is going to be playing there, but it was bouncing between two teams. Yeah.
It's nice to be able to have the two arena option. If you've got Scotiabank in Toronto and then less than an hour away in Hamilton, you've got another world-class facility like that. I think that's good. It makes sense to have that there. I don't know why Raptors 905 doesn't play there, or maybe they will. You know, like that's another good option to put basketball in the building.
Yeah.
But they've got to use it. I mean, they're spending a lot of money on it, so I think they've got to use it. The Rock is going to be an anchor tenant in there, and it's pretty exciting stuff for the team. For anybody who's never been to a lacrosse game, some of the best entertainment you can get, and you can get 4 tickets with concessions for under $150.
I brought two of my boys like 4 years ago, I think. There was an offer that somebody offered something to the Burlington Dads group as a whole, like for people to bring their families out. So we took our two boys, and I think they were like 8 and 5 at the time or something like that. And like the amount of times that their faces went like, just from like guys getting hit and like two-handed sticks across the forearms and stuff. My kids were like, oh my God, this is so crazy. This is so rough.
It's the only sport in the world where you're allowed to hit somebody with a stick.
Yeah.
No other sport does that happen.
Yeah.
But it is exciting and it's still accessible. I mean, the league is positioning itself right now as the next big league. And yeah, they might get there to that NBA, NHL type status. I don't know if they will or not, but they're certainly trying. Right now, though, it's still affordable. If you can take a whole family of 4 out and get 4 tickets and concessions for $150, I don't know what else you can do with a family of 4 for $150.
Yeah.
You know, other than mini golf and it's over.
Yeah.
So if you get a chance to come out, there we go. If you get a chance to come out to a Toronto Rock game, I highly recommend you do it. It's a great entertainment.
Where can people follow you? Where can they find you online? Where's the best place to go?
So if you want to hear me, the podcast is Scott Fox After 9. And if you want to follow me, it's the same handle on just about all the channels, at Scott Fox On Air, ONAIR. Maybe I should change that. Should I change that?
No.
I'm not on the air anymore.
No, well, you kind of are. Like
Kind of am.
your podcast is on it.
It sounds like you're listening to the radio. When I'm in the car and put one of my podcasts on, it sounds like radio. And I think that's one of the things that my old audience kind of appreciates about it is you still get a bit of that vibe, but without the music and commercials and all the other distractions.
Yeah, for sure.
I think on air will stick. I think that's a term. I think that's like, you know, we're walking around with all these smartphones and we still call them phones, but like there's a whole generation of kids that have never talked on a telephone and yet we still call it that, right?
They don't even know how to make a call.
That's just my
used
calculator.
app on the phone is the telephone.
I'm just walking around with my
Yeah,
calculator.
that's it. Ready to go. Yeah. Okay. So we have a little sidebar segment on here. We ask every guest when you come on the Shit My Dad Taught Me podcast, bring us a dad joke. Have you got a dad joke you can tell?
Can I do a radio dad joke?
Oh yeah, you do you.
Yeah.
Okay. What did the left speaker say to the right speaker when it left?
What did the left speaker say to the right speaker when it left?
Adios.
Adios. Yeah. Thanks, man.
Hey,
Appreciate you coming out. Appreciate you talking about everything. And yeah.
I appreciate the platform to talk about my pod. So first and foremost, thank you. And I will have you on my pod as well and introduce you to that audience. But also thank you for what you do. I don't know what you guys get for this, but moderating a group like that, raising the kind of money that you guys raise and throwing the events that you guys throw is a heck of a lot of work. And I assume you have other jobs. So congratulations on that, because what you're doing for Burlington and also inspiring other dad groups out there too. I mean, you guys have spoken at a few events and been invited to others, helping other people grow that in their city. You're doing great work. You guys are going to get the Order of Canada at some point.
Yeah.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate that.
You deserve it too.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. All right. We'll connect again soon.
We will, for
Thanks
sure.
to everybody.
Good luck with
Scott
this
Fox,
pod.
everybody. Thank
Scott
you.
Fox.